I've just got the new Sony ZV-E1 2 days ago, and the first thing I'm going to test is stabilization because and I believe a lot of people, are very excited about the allegedly gimbal-like dynamic active steady shot. I'm also going to test the framing stabilizer. I will show you some real-life examples, and let's find out how is the footage going to look with so much cropping in order to stabilize. First, I'm going to show you how this new dynamic active steady shot performs compared to other steady shot options. When you're at 28mm or anything wider than that, standing still, not doing any panning or checking, actually the standard steady shot can already do a very good job, and you will have a wider field of view. This is the same at longer focal length. As you can see, at 200mm standing still, all three steady shot functions work pretty well. Now, when you are panning the camera, no matter which steady shot you use, I think the footage looks alright. It is not very good, but considering it is 200mm, it is already not too bad. And if you are panning at a wider focal length, there will be no problem at all. The real difference between these three steady shots is when you are walking. When you are using steady shot off or standard, I think the footage is unusable. You can see the entire frame is shaking. When you use active steady shot, it looks a lot better generally, but you can still see obvious footsteps. And when you use dynamic active steady shot, the footsteps are much less noticeable. When you are walking faster or walking up and down the stairs using dynamic active steady shot, it looks pretty good too. One thing that you will need to pay attention to is when you're in a low light environment. For all the tests that I just showed you, it is during daytime and in good lighting condition, so I set the shutter speed to 1/50 since I was using 24 frames per second. But when it is darker, you will see this jittering if you still use 1/50. And when I set a faster shutter speed, all those tiny shaking is gone. I can't tell you an exact shutter speed number you should use because it really depends on how the lighting is, but I think 1/100 is pretty safe. Now let's take a look at the framing stabilizer. This is also a new feature of the ZV-E1. It is supposed to help your composition by keeping the subject in the center or at the fixed place that you manually set. I will have my puppy demonstrate this for you. I have put the camera on a tripod and I chose framing stabilizer, center. I set the recognition target to animal. So basically it will check the object and maintain it at an appointed place in the frame, and it looks like someone is holding the camera for you, while in fact nobody is touching the camera. This should be helpful if you are an instructor, you are giving a speech, or if you want to demonstrate something with more movement, but you don't have anyone to hold the camera for you. Now let's also test how framing stabilizer performs when you are walking and checking your subject at the same time. You can see that when the person who is holding the camera and the subject are moving at different speed, the camera will try to check the subject by zooming in or adjusting the frame a little bit so that the subject will stay near the center. One reminder is that the framing stabilizer will crop in a lot. When I am at 28mm, the frame looks as if I were using an 85mm lens. So be sure to put on a wider lens when you are using this function. I think you will need a lens that is at least wider than 24mm. Another thing is that on the Sony official help guide, it says to avoid deterioration of the image quality, it is recommended that you set file format to HD image quality when using framing stabilizer. Well, I tested it, and I really don't see any quality difference. But of course 1080 will save you some memory space. Let's recap the takeaways of this video. The Sony ZV-E1 has a new Steadyshot feature called Dynamic Active Steadyshot, which really stands out when you are walking while holding the camera. But it will have an about 30% crop compared to IBIS. In low light situation, make sure you use a faster shutter speed while walking in order to avoid jittering. Another new feature is framing stabilizer, which helps you maintain better composition by keeping the subject at the appointed area. But it will have an even larger crop than Dynamic Active Steadyshot. If you ask me which function is better at stabilization, I think maybe Dynamic Active Steadyshot is slightly better, but there really isn't much of a difference in my opinion. If you are considering buying this camera because you need the great stabilization features I just mentioned, make sure to also take wide-angle lens into consideration because you are definitely going to need one. I'm happy to see that there isn't noticeable quality loss despite the fact that these two features require so much cropping. So if you're just like me, you hate using a gimbal and you hate using catalyst browse, then the ZV-E1 is for you. If you have any questions about Steadyshot or if there is any test you want me to do, leave a comment to let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.